Number 9.
Turn me on, Edmund.
Yep, this movie has so many backwards moments in it. You would think that Elsa Crowley did the editing for it, but hi, welcome to End Credit Reviews on episode after the credits on End Credit Reviews. This is Tyler from End Credit Reviews,
And Steven from Steven Lawson Studios.
and we are here with the brand new Christopher Nolan movie known as Tenet. Now, the thing is that before we get into the movie, we have sorely missed going to the movie theater.
Yes.
It has been at least 6 months since I've gone to see a movie. The last time was all the way back in February with The Invisible Man. And was it for you, Stephen, as well?
I believe it actually was, yes. There have been a few I've seen that were supposed to be in theaters from home via less ideal means, we'll put it that way. But yeah, I think The Invisible Man was the last film I got to see in theaters.
Yeah, that was a really good movie, and it's a shame that because of what's been going on right now, that was just pulled from theaters prematurely, so it couldn't really rake in as much money at the box office, at least. Who knows? Maybe it kind of made up for it for on-demand, like streaming and that sort of deal.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the future on that one. Definitely a huge upgrade from the Mummy reboot of the, I guess, one and done Dark Universe.
Mm-hmm. Basically.
I mean, give it another. I mean, I think they should get another chance. I mean, if they go in this route that they've done with the previous movie, I think they have a bright future ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And for that matter, I don't even think Dracula Untold was that bad. But
Oh yeah, I think that's an underrated movie. I thought it was pretty good
yeah.
in that. But anyway, so back to the topic at hand. So we have the new Christopher Nolan movie known as Tenet. So basically, in the movie, it's about a man known as, quoted as, credited even as the protagonist.
Oh my gosh, it literally says it on IMDb.
Yeah,
I'm done.
in the movie, he said, "I'm the protagonist." I'm like, this is gonna become a meme, probably. He's like, "I'm the protagonist," and I'm thinking to myself, like, this is millennials in a nutshell. I'm the protagonist, therefore the world evolves around me.
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't know how much we're gonna spoil of this film, but honestly, I think one of the things I took after the fact, kind of just sitting for a minute, I thought, wait a minute, this guy being as important in the story as he is kind of psychotic and suggests a very poor future. But in any case.
Yeah, but anyway, so the protagonist, played by John David Washington, who of course is the son of Denzel Washington, is working for a secret military group, and he gets dragged in to try to stop this arms dealer named Andre Sater, played by Kenneth Branagh, and he teams up, of course, with a guy named Neil, played by Robert Pattinson. So basically, they get to the arms dealer's wife, who's Kat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Kat. I wasn't sure if it was Kat, Kate, and that, played by Elizabeth Debicki. And basically, throughout the story, it's figured out that some way to reverse time has been discovered, and I guess it was from the future, so it's technically Back to the Future, or is it Back to the Present from the future?
I think it's back to the present in this case, yeah.
Time travel is confusing, folks. If you just keep it simple, like the first two Terminator movies, but then you keep making sequels, like try to make it a franchise, it completely is just a mess.
Agreed.
So yeah, it's a movie with tons of action set pieces, and from what I saw early on, people generally like the movie, but I did see this article recently about there's a bit of backlash over the sound mix, and some people thought it wasn't very good, and I didn't think the sound mixing was bad. It was just kind of a little bit too loud, especially it must have been our theater we saw it at, where the audio was kind of too loud, even for the commercials, and we were like, that sort of thing. And I'm telling you, Steven, this commercial is gonna get a Razzie for worst sound design for a commercial if there's one.
Yeah, I forgot what the commercial was even for.
I think it was Coca-Cola.
Oh yeah, no, that one was nauseating. I was thinking that people with ADHD their heads must be exploding JFK style if they watch this, because it was just a complete cluster F of just sounds that distract you from the main point of the commercial. A bunch of people talking, and might as well be like a chicken squawking in the background too while we're at it. But yeah, as for the sound design, someone who works in sound at a radio station myself, I actually liked most of the sound design. The thing that I do think was a problem was the voices, the ducking of the voices, so that you could hear the music in the environment, and correspondingly duck the music so that you could hear the voices. That was not ideal over, especially there was a Indian woman and a Russian man, and I think the Russian man was the main bad guy, but those two characters, it was very difficult to understand them several times. And honestly, if I look forward to seeing this again, hopefully with subtitles, just because I think there may have been a few important pieces of dialogue that just get lost in how quickly things seem to move, and how they talk in a kind of undertone like this, but the music is very loud, over that. So
Yeah, for me, I think when it came to the audio thing, I had and I don't know, it's not really, well, I don't know, it's kind of a critique on the acting of the main character in the story, because sometimes I felt like the way he talked and some of the line delivery he did kind of hurt that, and it wasn't just really the sound design, it was kind of, well, his choices to deliver lines when it came to his acting in the movie in that. So it definitely wasn't like a bad actor. It's not like an actor in a movie where it's like you just can't really act that well, like James Franco and Oz the Great and Powerful. But I'm just saying that there are times where it's like you could have done like a better take in that, and a little bit more like emotion, and a little bit more like, less, not really robotic, kind of like, Cyborg and Justice League from what I remember, but
on autopilot, yeah.
yeah, that sort of thing. But he's still miles better than Common. I guess
yeah,
say.
no question.
Yeah. Also, I was just thinking of the villain of the story, played by Kenneth Branagh. I'm thinking to myself, the guy's probably, this guy has the ability to go back in time. I'm thinking to myself, if Kenneth Branagh really wanted to go back in time, he would go back in time and tell himself not to direct Artemis Fowl.
True.
Yeah, and some other projects probably, but anyway, but yeah, I actually thought he was a pretty good Russian accent, and he is the one who actually drops the token F-bomb in the PG-13 movie.
True,
he did. And I thought it was actually a fairly well used one. It's not like in some other movies, like in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, where Gary Oldman's character like casually says it, or Dwayne The Rock Johnson's character in that Hercules movie that no one remembers probably anymore, where it's just casually just thrown away, like, oh, we said it, we used it because we could. It wasn't like a dramatic moment, but in this one, it was the case. And even Godzilla King of the Monsters, a character says it when we see the big bad monster character of King Ghidorah, that sort of deal.
Yep.
So I felt like those are good, ways to use it in a PG-13 rated movie if you want to use the token F-bomb and that sort of deal. But anyway, so with the other cast members, I thought Robert Pattinson was pretty good in this one, and I kept making like jokes about like Batman and that. In fact, they're in a room where it's all red and that. I'm thinking to myself, Robert Pattinson's probably gonna, in between takes, is gonna get into the Batman costume to shoot the teaser for the Batman.
Right. Saying, "I am vengeance" in the corner.
Yeah.
What was that, Robert? Nothing.
Yeah, I think Robert wished he could go back in time too to stop himself from dating Kirsten Stewart.
Yeah, he might actually put a stake through her heart and spare us all the misery.
Before she put a stake through his heart with cheating on with the director of Snow White and the Huntsman. But.
True. Honestly though, how heartbroken could he be when basically she's just milquetoast personified?
Yeah. Oh.
Oh darn! I'll have to settle for something better.
Yeah, she'd probably go back in time and get an acting coach, but. Yeah. Whoa. What is going on? That was a line from like the first Twilight movie.
Yeah. Her range is incredible. And also, not to completely go on another tangent, but you guys know we're notorious for this. Seeing that underwater movie that was basically like Alien, but in a spaceship that's underwater and involved like a Cthulhu-esque creature. Uh, I thought to myself that, actually she's not bad in this. But then it occurred to me, oh no, she's just literally herself in this role. So it was a typecast. Where some people were saying that, she's actually pretty good in this movie. It's because they cast her for bland military woman who has no feelings. But I digress.
Okay, but other cast members talk about, I just wanted to, they briefly show up in the movie for like one scene. We have Barbara, played by Clemens Posey, and some people may recognize her as one of the characters in the Harry Potter movies, and that, I mean, she actually is older than I thought she was in those movies. And that, but we also have, she's the one who just misses exposition for the time, reverse time, plot device stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Michael Caine as well, the token Michael Caine character in the Nolan movies. And I felt like this could have been played by virtually any actor.
True.
Because he's only in the movie for like one scene. And then this must be an easy paycheck. Just sits down the whole time inside a restaurant.
And eats. Yeah, so you get a free meal out of it, too.
Yeah, for like probably just one day of filming. Yeah, really. Easy paycheck. Easy money. But anyways, so I wanted to talk about as well the action in the movie, too. And what was your favorite action set piece, Steven?
Oh, man. That's a tough one. I really liked the final one quite a bit. That's obviously kind of a cheap one to pick because usually films go to their climax or wait till the climax for the biggest action sequence. And that was definitely the case for this film. But at the same time, if I had to choose another one, the one in the museum felt kind of like James Bond, except in Inception, which was pretty insane and great. And I would probably lean towards the final one where they're rushing a reactor. I believe it was in Russia, maybe Siberia, but that was probably my favorite just because we got to see the most out of the sort of pincer attack sequence of little bit in the future and the present attacking one location and the effects of time, kind of an entropy inverting to basically kill people on accident and stuff. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that was very creative. I mean, I kind of got a final level and like a Call of Duty video game vibe from it.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, I did like the action set piece on the highway. It was interesting too what they were able to do with that. But I do think my favorite action sequence is when they're crash that airplane, which is like we jokingly said 9/11 with no budget. and,
True.
And I just love all the the reverse stuff of like the fight and that sort of deal. That whole thing reminded me of, I don't know if you remember the moment in Bram Stoker's Dracula when Lucy crawls back into her coffin, and that was actually shot with her coming out of the coffin, and it was actually reversed to make it look like otherworldly. But imagine half the movie being like that. It does kind of mess with your head a bit,
Mm-hmm.
in a way, but it is pretty creative and it's very unique and interesting, experience to see it on the big screen. And then also the first scene of the movie is this kind of hostage scene that's not really 100% explained that well. It just happens and that sort of deal. And when that happened, I was thinking to myself, this is kind of awkward because it's this, hostage shooting thing that happens in this auditorium. And keep in mind that one of Nolan's previous movies, The Dark Knight Rises, sadly was connected with the Aurora movie theater shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to believe it's been like 8 years since that happened.
That
roughly.
is hard to believe.
Yeah, it just reminded me of that in a way. But yeah, I mean, the action scenes are pretty good in that, and I gotta say that the movie, I think, is a pretty relevant and timely movie because the fact our main character is wearing a mask throughout much of the movie, like a lot of people have to these days. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of destruction happening, just like in the real world right now. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's a lack of, tenants in big cities because everyone's just, I'm out of here.
Right.
Basically. But anyway, what are your thoughts on that? Is that a coincidence or?
Honestly, I think overall, obviously, no one could predict COVID, so I feel like a certain amount of it is coincidence. But the I forgot who is the one that said that films and art in general is a reflection of the times in which they're made to a certain extent.
Me.
Well, I think someone besides Tyler said that in history.
Well, I'm one of the people.
Yes,
I
yes.
wrote I wrote a college level senior thesis
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah, no, I'm not trying to take away from you. I'm just saying that that was probably said by someone who's dead now, and but in any case, it stands true. I think largely, and I was actually more than that thinking the masks. You know, when they had to wear the masks, it's like, oh, look at us, we're wearing masks right now. But talking about the action for a second, I agree. I would say short of maybe Inception, well, or maybe not even short of Inception, this was probably one of the best action sequence films that I've seen in quite a while. I enjoy the Batman films quite a bit, but they tend to rely more on their story and kind of Batman and his gadgets more than too much swinging. And this had a lot of energy, chaotic, fighting for your life in a new way that was very different, similar to Inception. I guess that's what I was thinking of. But that to me was definitely one of its strengths. And for anyone who has seen Memento, it will definitely give you strong vibes of Memento if you see this film, because obviously messing around with time was a part of Memento as well, but this is handled in a slightly different way in that it would be like the protagonist of Memento seeing himself go backwards. And it was very interesting to watch. Some people may find that confusing, and that honestly to me says that it bears multiple viewings, but once you get to the end of the film, you see more that, okay, so I wasn't supposed to understand in the moment. I will understand more by the ending.
Okay, I mean, I also was thinking that, but also the movie Interstellar, because towards the end of the movie, we find out why those bookshelves are falling off of the room of Merv. Yeah, I couldn't resist, folks. And it also time and space as well as mention that, which is a pretty consistent theme in Nolan's movies. Even if movies that don't really literally touch upon it, we do see that Nolan-esque style of jumping to the past to the present back and forth, like in Batman Begins had that a lot, where it cut back and forth between the present time with Bruce Wayne trying to train to become a crime fighter, and flashing back to when he was younger, when he was a kid, seeing his parents killed, as well as his decision to become a vigilante. And yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting reoccurring theme. And of course, the lighting, I have to say, the very Nolan, silver colors and the low lighting kind of yellow colors as well, which is pretty common in his movies, especially after rewatching Inception recently too. One character that I forgot to bring up and mention, we were talking about the characters, was Elizabeth Debicki's character as Kat, and there's a part where one of the characters says, "What's wrong?" It's like, "How you doing, Kat?" And I jokingly said, "Got your tongue."
That he did. That he did.
Yeah, and at one point in the movie, I'm just wondering if some idiots on Twitter or social media is gonna just review bomb this movie just because, oh my god, look how they objectify her towards the end of the movie and that. Well, it's called the male gaze. One movie that easily could have benefited from this was Birds of Prey, which is one of the many reasons why it bombed. But no matter what regardless, no matter if it did that or not, it would have still flopped anyway, because it just wasn't a good movie.
I doubt this one in particular would suffer from that sort of thing, especially because a black male's in the lead. So it's like the diversity quota is to a certain extent filled. I don't know. It probably, of course, is going to receive some sort of feedback, because the culture vultures are always on patrol. But from what I've understood and seen, it seems to be received pretty positively. To a few people lukewarm, but I definitely think that it's dodged a bullet, especially in terms of the criticism from Dunkirk, his last film, which was unwarranted, I would say, but I guess some people still have problems with, I guess, historical accuracies in films. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, also, I also was bringing up the whole like, she's pretty much in like her bikini and like a, like a unbuttoned shirt and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And yeah, she's very attractive. But the thing was that what kind of took me out of it, because she's a really tall woman in real life, is that she towers over all the characters, including Kenneth Branagh's character, who's the antagonist. And it's kind of hard for her to believe that. Oh yeah, this pretty much this the human version of a giraffe is being like intimidated by this person who is much shorter than she is. I mean, come on, just could have had him stand on like a box or something.
Yeah, pull a Tom Cruise where they make him look taller than he actually is.
Yeah.
No, I agree. She did feel like a giraffe and a half.
A giraffe and a half.
There was a shot kind of near the boats on the dock where the protagonist and Kat were walking side by side, and Kat was solidly like a foot taller. And I just thought, wow, this is some real small dick energy right now. Like, Mr. Guy who just was able to, on his own fight off three mobsters, all of a sudden is like, eye level with her chest. It's ridiculous.
He looked like he was back in middle school. That awkward years where a lot of the women that you're being, like your teachers or your mom were pretty much that height.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even when she was in that movie, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., when she was like having her scenes with Henry Cavill, he's a tall guy too. Even she was like looking down on him too.
True, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just this is not a slight against her. We don't
No.
have like, oh, she's tall, therefore reject.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That sort of thing. I'm trying to think if there's. I mean, the movie runtime wise, I didn't really feel the length of a lot of it, which was a good sign. But I think we should get into spoilers here. So just fast forward to this part if you don't want to be spoiled. But
Sure.
anyway, so towards the end of the movie, it's like, oh, he goes back in time, and we find out that I guess the one guy played by Aaron Taylor Johnson pulls a gun. I'm like, oh, is he in on it? But it's like, oh, we're just gonna separate the stuff. And I was kind of got some flashbacks to the Justice League movie where the whole like separating the mother boxes and that sort of deal. But yeah, I mean, I felt like the final scene of the movie kind of felt a little bit too cliched of an ending of like, oh yeah, everything's like neatly, overly conveniently tied up at the end with the protagonist, like defeats another villain of the movie who's played by Dimple Kapadia. I'm not good with names, people. Priya is her name in the movie. And yeah, you were saying like how her audio wasn't very good. I mean, I can understand her with her accent, but
I meant the dialect. The dialect was, in addition to the environmental sounds and the music, plus her kind of flat tone, it was overwhelming. It was too much, I think, in certain parts.
Yeah, if you want to hear like bad music and sound design, just watch one of those old documentaries from like the History Channel or even from E Network on Mysteries and Scandals, where the music is just way too loud at times when people are talking, especially like when they have like the old people talking. It's like they talk too quiet. It's like you got to raise their audio up
Right.
so you can hear them. And the music, it doesn't help because the music's too loud. Like you got to lower the music.
True.
I mean, yeah, you want the music in the background, so it's not just dead, white noise. But at the same time, you want to be hearing what the people are saying too.
Yep. And again, as Mr. Audio Engineer here, there are very simple tools to make that easy where you can just like take a silent part of your audio and say, mimic this sound. And all of that sound goes down significantly. So there is no excuse when a guy fresh out of college could do a better job that certain scenes and professional organizations could not accomplish this.
Yeah, and even like YouTubers were doing a better job with the mustache removal on Superman as well as we were seeing.
Right.
But thank God for the Snyder Cut.
True.
Hallelujah.
I look forward to it very much. Yes.
Same here. I'm hoping that's not the actual format that's in. I'm just hoping that it's just the gimmick for like it's for television that and we actually gets like a full screen thing because it's
Hmm.
meant for a home video experience. But
Sure.
be kind of disappointed if that's the case. But anyways, so what would you give this movie, Steven?
Well, a couple things I'd like to just talk about real quickly. The one thing that you mentioned, Tyler, about the ending feeling cliche, I definitely can understand that. But I actually, like I was talking about earlier, felt a sense of dread, like f- almost about the protagonist, and like that this story feels like the beginning of a story of a monster. Like this film was, I think, decent enough in its own right, but I would actually be very curious because, again, a little spoiler here briefly. The guy who refers to himself as the protagonist realizes that he's working for himself in the future, who clearly sets apart a plan in motion to kind of orchestrate his own victory and almost set up an empire of intervening in the past. And the fact that he literally unironically is calling himself the protagonist and unironically doing all these things makes me go, my God, this guy's a sociopath. What horrible actions is he going to take with this God complex? But in any case, the villain in this was a pretty bad guy too. But I would say that he felt fairly, to me, he felt kind of generic Russian villain. Um,
Same.
and that was definitely not ideal because I know that Nolan can do better in terms of villains. We've seen it from him. So while the stakes were great, the villain didn't really match those stakes, I felt. And that, that you could tell they tried with like how he abused the wife and stuff, but that can only go so far. You can only be such a bastard when there's a whole geopolitical strategy at play. But in any case, getting to what I would think of the movie, the action was phenomenal. The pacing was pretty good. I felt towards the beginning and the very ending, it may have slowed down just a tad more than I liked. And certain elements of the story, I think, could have possibly been executed better through writing or even just clarifying the sound quality. But I don't think anything was too detrimental, and this definitely stands to be, in addition to up there with Inception as one of his more creative individual films that he's produced. It is, to me, probably in the top five that he's done. I don't know exactly where I would place it on the list that we did recently, but probably towards the upper middle, if you were to ask me, like maybe just next to Memento or something. But if I had to give this a percentage score, I would say that it falls right at about an 84 to an 85%.
Okay. I mean, for me, I do think it's a good movie, and I did enjoy it. And it's nice to see, another Christopher Nolan movie, especially for what's happening right now. We definitely could use some true quality movie being released around the time when movie theaters are trying to reopen. I mean, it's basically a brick of gold compared to a movie like Unhinged.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we should talk about that at some point, but good grief, that's a turd.
Home video will probably maybe we will watch it.
Yeah.
We still have to watch that train wreck known as Cats still.
Oh boy, yeah, we do. We've got to witness some carcinogens, that's for sure.
Yep. But anyway, I felt like the problem with the story is like, yeah, cliched, Russian bad guy ending that felt a little bit too like overly conveniently wrapped up. I felt like some stuff in the story could have been explained better, especially the beginning, the way he was talking. It felt like they gave the impression like he already knew what this time travel reverse stuff was, but then when he goes to that one, like Barbara character, she explains it to him, and he's like, "Wait, what's this sort of thing?" And for me, that kind of came off as like, well, choose one or the other. Either he comes in cold or already knows what's happening, kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio's character in the movie Inception,
Mm-hmm.
where he knows about it, and then even kind of explain to the Ellen Page characters like, "Oh, I'm the audience. Hi, here I am."
Yep.
Explain what it is to her. But anyway, I will say, yeah, it's very entertaining with the action and set pieces, but part of me felt like, yeah, there's some Nolan tropes which I'm like, kind of iffy about, and this one I think is better than some of the other movies I've mentioned before. And when it comes, I will say I liked it more than Dunkirk in ways. I know I kind of go back and forth on Dunkirk. Well, when it comes to where I rank of the Nolan movies, it just kind of goes up and down in that. And I personally felt like the pinnacle of Nolan's movies, quality wise, were the first two Batman movies and Inception.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like now it's kind of like, well, he makes solid movies, but I don't think this is necessarily a great movie, but I would recommend it regardless, even if you, despite the precautions and the various rules that movie theaters reopening right now. I say go see it, and it was really sad that it was kind of a blessing and a curse that we went to when we saw this movie. It was just the two of us and some other guy in the back, and it was like, oh, we got the theater virtually to ourselves. But on the other hand, it's like, oh man, I'm hoping this movie does not like flop at the box office.
Same.
In that, because it's I really would love to see the movie theater experience still there, and not just stuck just at home, because movies are starting to become less like not valuable, but seem like they're less like meaningful and special. Yeah, special is what I was looking for.
Mm.
Because if you just stream movies and that, it's not like an experience to it anymore. Then they just feel like, oh, it's just a throwaway entertainment, almost like just an episode of a sitcom you just watch just for time to kill and that, and not necessarily something you want to invest in and get hyped to go see.
Sure.
But anyway, so I will say that Tenet is a fairly solid Christopher Nolan movie. I think it's very in the middle when it comes to his movies, at least his filmography from what I remember. The action was pretty good. Acting for the most part of the cast was pretty good. I mean, I felt like John David Washington kind of teeter-tottered a bit at times. I mean, it wasn't like, again, some other actors who are just not good at acting whatsoever. But I will say that I would recommend seeing it, especially on the big screen, and to try to keep movie theaters alive and well. So as for Tenet, I would give it about 3 stars out of 4. So I liked it, but I actually liked the Invisible Man movie that came out recently. I feel like that's the best movie I've seen so far this year. At least a movie that came out, this year. And I really hope that there's more movies get released in theaters, and certain other movies don't just get restricted just to a streaming service. Right. But anyway, this is Tyler from End Credit Reviews.
And Steven from Steven Lawson Studios.
Yes, and we hope you enjoy this episode after the credits on End Credit Reviews, and we hope to make a lot more in the future. Please like and subscribe. Yes, we can.
Thank you, Satan.
Yeah, that really takes us back. No pun intended, but...